Yes, Europe should be in the negotiations, but I'm personally skeptical about unprepared meetings of heads of states or government. We had such a meeting in Alaska, it didn't help. A meeting on the summit should only, in my view, happen when the deal is done.
Good day, everyone. The Foreign Affairs Council of the European Union is meeting on the very eve of the 4th anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, so the primary topic for discussion is quite clear. We will be talking about how to provide assistance to Ukraine, which is bravely defending itself, and how to implement further sanctions, specifically targeting the so-called junk fleet, which some refer to as the shadow fleet. However, the agenda also includes other significant issues, such as disinformation or the ongoing situation in the Middle East. These will be the primary subjects for discussion during the proceedings.
Mr. Minister, how do you assess the stance of Viktor Orbán, who has blocked both the loan for Ukraine, which Hungary is unwilling to finance, and also the 20th sanctions package? Well, Poland withdrew from the Druzhba pipeline in 2020.
They are already obstructing certain very significant matters. For example, the crucial issue concerning the reimbursements from the European Peace Facility, specifically intended for the benefit of those nations which, at the very commencement of the conflict, dispatched essential military equipment to Ukraine. This is a blocking of 7 billion euros, which includes €500 million and 2 billion zlotys for the Armed Forces Modernization Fund. This was a crucial matter, one that I have consistently championed and actively pursued in all my diplomatic engagements and discussions with Hungary. Unfortunately, they remain absolutely unyielding, steadfast, and completely inflexible in their stance. They are unwilling to allow those nations that are currently providing assistance to Ukraine to further increase their support and aid to the country. And let me remind you, one of the priorities of the Polish presidency was the opening of the first negotiation cluster with Ukraine, and that was also vetoed by Hungary. So this kind of using the European agenda to conduct political struggles within our own country, and doing so in a situation where our own society has been turned against the struggling Ukraine through the use of propaganda, is, in my considered opinion, a clear and undeniable breach of the European solidarity to which we are all firmly obligated under the terms of the Treaty of Lisbon.
Are you convinced that this new mechanism, which is meant to limit revenues from raw materials, will be more effective than the current limit we have? Because after all, the real goal is to prevent Russia from earning money. This BSG7 mechanism means that Russia will be able to earn more in Asia, in Africa. In the long run, it pays off for them to have exactly these markets, not Europe.
Let me remind you that during our presidency, we significantly increased the number of vessels that were placed under sanctions. Here, various methods are being employed, and the objective is precisely what you've stated, to prevent Putin from being able to fund his war machine. And for many years, Hungary has had the option to acquire oil and gas from the southern direction, just like the rest of Europe. If he had entered into long-term contracts, then the prices would be quite comparable. For some reason, he prefers to buy from Putin.
President Nawrocki announced he would veto Save the Safe program. Would you care to comment on this in any way?
I haven't seen it as of yet. If that were to happen, I hope the military, the uniformed services, will tell him exactly what they think. That would be succumbing to Novogrodzka's pressure, not fulfilling his constitutional duty as the supreme commander of the armed forces, and neglecting the care for a modern Polish army. It would be a truly shocking and unacceptable betrayal of its constitutional role.
Minister, what do you think about possible meeting between President Zelensky, Vladimir Putin, and maybe President Trump, and should Europe also be at this negotiation table?
Yes, Europe should be in the negotiations, but I'm personally skeptical about unprepared meetings of heads of states or government. We had such a meeting in Alaska, it didn't help. A meeting on the summit should only, in my view, happen when the deal is done, when it's the confirmation of what's been negotiated. Otherwise, there are more risks than opportunities, in my view.
Minister, can you emphasize, please, what's one specific commitment your country is doing right now, today, to prevent the fifth anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion in Ukraine?
Well, Poland is among countries that have done the most. Just an example from the last couple of weeks. Finally, at last, with my encouragement, Elon Musk cut off the access for the Russians to the Starlinks, which apparently is having an effect on the front line. I'd like you to know that it's Poland that's been paying for 30,000 terminals that are being used in Ukraine, including by the Ukrainian armed forces. But that's only one of many things that we do. Our howitzers, well, I visited them on the front, so I know the soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, appreciate them. Our anti-aircraft missiles, our vehicle fighting infantry fighting vehicles, our tanks, our fighter jets, all the logistical help, our payments into the poor fund with which Europe buys American weapons that are being delivered, our contribution to the Czech ammunition initiative. As you can tell, the list is quite long.
Decision to block the 90 billion loan over the weekend, and do you think that the EU should have like a plan B in case this loan doesn't come ahead?
You know, the thing that shocks me fundamentally is that while Ukraine is defending itself against the might of the Russian army, Hungarians used to understand what it's like. You know, Budapest was invaded, in fact twice in the 20th century, but once by the Red Army. I would have expected a much greater feeling of solidarity from Hungary for Ukraine. And instead, with the help of state propaganda and private but media controlled by the government, the ruling party managed to create a climate of hostility towards the victim of aggression, and now is trying to exploit that in the general election. It's quite shocking.
And this is the last question, please.
Marco Rubio traveled to Bratislava and also Budapest earlier this month. Do you think Hungary's lack of behavior is linked to the fact that Rubio went to those countries and said that you're an essential partner for the US?
Actually, Mark Rubio, to give credit where credit is due,